Hi again, and welcome back to another episode of Discovering Dataflix, where we dive deeper into building applications using the Dataflix framework. Today, I have a list of things to do, and I actually have planned a few videos ahead right now. And we're going to start to explore lists, especially using non-DB aware lists, because I want to do a unit test system, because we're later going to build a function that we want to use the unit test system to build, just to see how that works. And then we're going to use that to fix a small issue inside of the import CSV feature that we built a couple of weeks back. So you're in for a treat the next couple of weeks, and there are a lot of things to look forward. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button or follow button in any social media where we post videos, so you don't miss the coming episodes. So let's start with what we want to do. And I'm just going to dive right in. We want a unit test view, so let's do that. Just create a new view, and we want to use a regular web view, and we're just going to call it unit test. And perhaps we want to call it O unit test. I think that's, yeah, exactly, O unit test. And we don't want that label. We're actually gonna use a list. I'm gonna stop the debugger. Class palette, and we can use a regular web list, or we can use a web grid. The difference is that you have some more features in a web grid. When it comes to editing and updating, cWebList is more like just showing data. We might explore the differences more in another video, but for now, I'm just going to use a web grid. And in here, I want to have a few columns. And I actually want one column for a kind of a name, but it's going to be some caption or title. But before the title column, I actually want to have another column that is going to be the icon. So we want an icon, and that should not be a regular column, but it should be like an image column image. So we can use that instead. Oh, and we worry about the image later. And we also want a kind of hidden column. We've done this before. That we can use like type, because we're going to use this value to actually style the column some bits. So the idea is that we're going to set that to 0 and see what happens. Yeah, this is more or less what I want. So what this will do is we will have an icon here that shows if the test passed or not. And then we will have like a title for the test. And then we will have a type, because we're going to group our tests in different categories. And when we do that, we might want to style the rows differently to indicate that this is an overarching category of tests, and then this is the actual tests. So let's see how we can do this. And and when you click one of these, I would like the information about the error or the success perhaps to be displayed in a, I think we're going to use an HTML box just down below. So we need to kind of keep that information available somewhere as well. So perhaps we're going to add another just regular column of the width 0 formation. Information call. So we're consistent and everything looks nice. All right. And we call this the inbox. Here is now, let's see. We want a button to test the test system. So we want to have a few buttons here. We do not have a data dictionary structure, and we're going to make sure that our control here, the list, is set to be non-DB aware. So here it says PB data aware. This should go into false, because otherwise it won't populate the list as we want it. It will expect there to be a data dictionary that it can use to fill the data. So we want it not to be DB aware in this case. And let's see. Just for testing purposes, we want to add a button, cWeb button. That's all the way up on top. Now we can put it outside there. That was the wrong place to put it. It should go in there. Somewhere. And in this case, I'm just going to say add row. I might want to change that not to be that wide. I think that's enough. And when we click this, we just want to add a test row to see if we can do that. And now we're in for a treat. So, because we want to add something here, and my gut instinct tells me that in the cWebGrid, there should be a method for adding append new row. Instruct the client to begin editing a new row at the bottom of the grid. Yeah, that looks really much what we're doing. This is a procedure. What I need some parameters here, I guess. Offline editing on new row. So I cannot use this one, I guess, because I have no row parameter to add to it. So we go back to this grid and see if there are other methods we can use to add a row to this dataset insert row before DataSetAppendRow. This looks more like something we want. Send DataSetAppendRow to append a new row. Or PB grid type manual. Yeah, PB where false. That's exactly what we have. Since this message is implemented as an asynchronous client action, this means that the row is not added to the list until after the current server call is completed. Okay. Now the only question I have is, what does a cWeb row look like, and a T row? What's the structure of that one? And it's a struct like this. And here we have an array of cWeb cells. So we can use that. In our code, we just add this struct somewhere. And then let's see, here's a sample. Copy that. And in our click function, yeah. The rows. Suppose cWeb row should be like that. Rows a cells. So they have cells in here. And we should probably declare some TB cells as well, I guess. Yeah, we need this struct as well, so that we know what a TB cell looks like, and that there's nothing crazy in here. There's a string array of options. We have the values, yes. And we read up on this. All right. So then we go back here. Use TB web row package. there is actually a package for this, or are we? Is this a suggestion to implement the package? Well, I think this should be enough, but you never know. And in this case, but we more or less want to add items here. So we want to move, and in this case, images. Let's go to discovering data flex, app HTML images, and see what images we got. I'm just going to get some images here we can use. Yeah, we got this red light and green light. So let's name that column 0. Images / red light dot g. Second one, we have the title. We're just going to move its title. We have the type. Now let's call this and the last column was the description. Let's add that as well. Of error. I'm going to try to put some tags here as well, see what happens with those. And now we got the array filled out. So now we want to add that to our data. So we call this one. And the rows, no, this is actually adding more rows. The rows. Yeah, I'm going too far here. We just want one row here. It should be T, the row. Use that instead. And this should be out here. So it's the same value we're adding here. That T, the row. So this is what we want to append, and we want to do that of the test list. So now we're excited to see what works and what doesn't works. And I also want to do something here in the app source that you can access by double clicking on this one, because I want a new menu. So we have the unit test one item, but I just want to move it out to a separate menu. So let's see if we can. Yeah, have that be called test menu. Tests. Or we might want to add some other code samples here later, but let's call it test for now. And in there we have the unit test. So when we run this in our application, we should get an extra menu here, but we got some errors instead. Let's see what those are all about. cWeb cell already defined. Okay, so there's already defined one of those in the code. And cWebRow is also already defined, so we don't have to put them in the code. They're already defined somewhere. These are default values. Good to know. So let's run. And we go to test, unit test. And now we want to add a row. And we get illegal data type conversion. Where do we get that? For A cells, it should be a string. What is the conversion issue here? Of course. Let's keep these here. It's the S value we're adding. It's a struct. We need to actually add it to the right place in the struct. Recompile. Test, unit test, add row. There it is. And now we have a feature that can add rows to the non-DB URL list. And I'm really happy with that. I think we're done here. The next week, we are going to look at these values and do some calculations on them. So we want to read data from the list and process the data. See you then.